Alright, so fresh out of the South Korean military, we have a Zerg player going up against what I consider to be the world's greatest Terran versus Zerg. What I've got for you today is a best of 3 series where in game number 1 we find ourselves on the map Oceanborn, and spotting right here in the bottom right hand corner, we have a man who's named after the Grinch, as apparently he's playing under his nickname of DP Gruge. That's how I read it anyways. We have none other than Rogue. Of course, one of the all-time legends of StarCraft 2. But also somebody who may just be a little bit rusty. I've been incredibly impressed by him though, and I'm very curious to see how well he will do against none other than Clem. Clem is just, he's ridiculous, right? I've fanboyed over Clem many times in previous videos. I'm sure, if you haven't, I'll try to not fanboy too much in this particular video, but if you're unaware, Clem's Terran versus Zerg is ridiculous. He's so good when it comes to microing his units that it's just hard to keep up sometimes. Like, even as an observer, even as somebody who's got, you know, the full minimap vision and I can click my mouse to literally anywhere I want, when Clem really starts going in the middle to late stages of a match, he's so incredibly fast. There's engagements left, right, and center, and somehow he seems to be microing all of it while he's... Okay, I wasn't gonna fanboy, but anyways, he's doing all of that while macroing at home. So I've got a feeling that this is going to be a very uphill battle for Rogue. But at the same time, it's also going to be a very fun test to see where he is currently at. Because when he first came back, maybe 3-4 weeks or so ago at this point, he looked pretty good. Then a week later, he looked significantly better. Then a week later after that again, he was already looking like he was once again able to compete at the professional level and potentially even win a couple of tournaments. But then again, I do feel like Clem is just on another level right now. Specifically when it comes to this matchup, I feel like he's so good. So, let's find out together exactly what ended up going down. This is from the first edition of, I believe, this year's Kung Fu Cup. So the Kung Fu Cup is once again back. Massive shout out to the WTL for sending over these replays, and SC Boy and all those people over there that are working hard, organizing tournaments. And yeah, this is the first season back once again, which is, or the first iteration, I guess, the first run of this particular tournament once again in the new season. Alrighty, so let's have a look. First Reaper coming in, bit of a skill check. You definitely don't want to lose the Reaper. You definitely also don't want to lose any Zerglings though if you can at all avoid it. Especially when you gotta go for 6 links. Usually the idea is that you don't lose any. This is, by the way, a double inject here from Rogue, which is a little interesting. Generally speaking, you go 1 inject in the main base. Not so fast, Brenda. Generally, you go 1 inject in the main base and then 1 tumor over here, especially if you're going to be pulling the queen in this direction. Maybe kind of nice to get her back onto the creep a little bit quicker. Either way, apparently, Rogue has decided, or Gruge. For some reason, I keep looking at the bottom of the screen, or like his nickname in-game, and I keep thinking it's the Grinch. Or the Gruge, rather. Maybe this is going to be a follow-up of a classical Christmas movie. Alrighty. Triple CC opener right here from Clem. I'm assuming we're going to see a tech lab here in just a moment on the barracks. We're going to see the big switcheroo, and this will just be the good old, well, Hellion Banshee-based opener. At least that is the build that makes the most sense. Second gas going up only just now, though, so we'll have to see exactly what Clem decides to do with it. He could just go into a Liberator. He could even just go into a Viking as well. But indeed, there's the tech lab coming up. So he will be doing the switcheroo here in just a moment. This is the standard Terran versus Zerg build order for Clem. This is what he loves to play. It is his tried and true strategy. It doesn't really have any particular weaknesses. It gives you a nice boost in economy. You don't really have to deal a lot of damage to the Zerg with this build, because of course you do have the fast 3rd command center. And any bonus you deal, or any damage you deal rather, is really a bonus. Roach Warren coming up at right around the 4-minute mark right here for Rogue. Still just sitting around on a single gas geyser. Last time I saw him play, he was a big fan still of the rule of 1 gas, where you basically just saturate the mineral lines fully before you add on any additional gas geysers, which I do think is a really strong play. Generally, it's what I recommend if you are new to Zerg and you're trying to learn how to play a macro game. Good scout right here, by the way. By the Zerg player, he knows exactly what he's playing against. It's going to be a bio follow-up off of Triple CC as well with some Hellion Banshee. Anyways, generally speaking, if you're unsure as to what you should do, so you see Zerg right now adding on additional gases, generally speaking, yeah, you want to stick around on just a single gas geyser until you have 3 mineral lines fully saturated. So in Rogue's case, he basically mined well, a whole load of minerals. And then finally, as soon as he hit full saturation on those mineral lines, he's adding on a whole load of additional gas. Alrighty, so strong start here as well for the Zerg, but very soon Clem is going to pick up the pace. Usually the first cracks that happen on the side of Zergs is the creep spread. It's one of those things that's quite difficult to quantify, really. It's hard to really determine where it quote-unquote should be. But usually once Clem really starts going, he will scan once and he will kill a couple of creep tumors, and then he will use that as a way to continue pushing a little bit later on. 11 creep tumors, by the way, active right now, so that is a lot. Yeah. Casually pushing it away as well from where those Hellions are, and then allowing his 2 more queens over here on the right side to put down some additional tumors. Not bad at all. It's gonna be roaches with +1/+1. Infestation pit coming up as well. Okay. There's more barracks. That is barracks number 4 and 5. Got ourselves a reactor coming up as well on the starport. So the medevacs should be flying across the map momentarily. 1 queen. Ooh, I thought it was gonna go down, but not quite. Good last second transfusion right there from Rogue. And those little moments, though, they do get me excited, because I know it's relatively insignificant, but the fact that he could have transfused earlier and he actually waited, right? It's not like he was late. I actually thought he was going to miss it. But the fact that he waited on purpose to try and get that extra shot from the Banshees, it's a good indicator that Rogue is feeling comfortable. Those are the moves you really only make when you're comfortable. And there's the super quick hive. 6.5 minute hive, Hydra Den, you love to see it. So this is very different than what Rogue was playing just about a month ago. This is the new school style of playing TVZ. So when he first came back, he was playing all these old school builds. They're still good, but this, generally speaking, is much better. So this is a rush straight up towards what should be Lurker play, with some hive tech upgrades as well. I'm assuming we are going to see a Lurker then. There it is. Okay, I was going to say, maybe a little bit funky if we're just going to rush up to a hive to maybe get like an adrenal gland started or a couple of vipers. I think it makes a lot more sense when you do go for that Lurker then as well. Rogue is forced to go for the base right over here on the right side, rather than for the expansion that he originally was aiming for. Clem, still just slowly moving on. Second factory just finished up. Rather than a ton of multitasking here so far, actually, from Clem. I mean, there's been a little bit of that. Overall, he seems to be playing this quite calmly. Gonna go for a 4th command center here in just a moment. Here's that push at the bottom. This is the 2nd 4th base, however. Some of you would call that the 5th, but it really isn't. Sometimes I get comments in the comment section like, Lowko, what do you mean? 2nd 4th base? You mean the 5th? It's like, no. This is literally just a base that, you know, one of the 4th bases is likely to be killed. And sometimes it doesn't, so then you do have a 5th. But it really is just a backup 4th, if that makes any sense. We're gonna try and retake it once more. 2-2 starts up immediately right here for Clem. Already, though, Lurkers coming up at 8 minutes into the game. Ooh, that's a very white Lurker cocoon. That may actually make this a bit awkward, but I've got a feeling... that is a scary Terran army, though. But as long as the Lurkers are settled in the right position, they should be okay. There is a lot of blocking going on, though. Ugh. Yeah, he just selected his Hydras. God, Queens, get out of the way. Hello. Oh, God, this is so clumsy. If he loses the game because of that, I'm gonna cry for Rogue. Because now the Lurkers are not in position. Ah, that is one of the saddest moments I've ever seen. He was perfectly set up for this. I think he should still be okay. Nah, he's still gonna be alright. But he did now end up losing that base at the bottom of the map once again. And he did certainly lose more Lurkers here than he was supposed to. And I think he's actually still gonna have a tough time clearing all of this out. That is so unfortunate right here for Rogue. Everything was going perfectly until one of his... So basically what you do is you just control-click your Hydras from the selection at the bottom of the screen, and you're like, okay, every Hydra, or as many as I can at the very least, turn into a Lurker, right? And apparently one of those Hydras just happened to be right over there. Luckily for Rogue, that is not a mistake he will likely be able to replicate very easily. But that is now putting the wind in favor of Clem. Yeah. If Clem was a sailboat, he's cruising right now. Do they cruise? I don't know if they cruise. Roaches are being traded out here for better units. Problem is, though, yeah, this is now a very ugly fight. Medevac drop goes into the main base. The spawning pool will be killed. Clem is recognizing that at this point, Zerg is going to be flooding minerals. He seems to be recognizing it before Mr. Rogue actually does it. Just like that, what was looking like a solid game here for Rogue is going to go in favor of Clem. I can imagine that's one of those games as well, though, for Clem, where he's thinking to himself, this is the guy people have been hyping up. Like, I did my most standard build order ever. I went across the map, fully expecting lurkers to be able to hold my push, but they showed up late. What in the world did I just play against? Pretty sure Clem was reading that game properly, though, and I was just surprised by the fact he could just go ahead and win. Unfortunate situation right there for Rogue. It did kind of look like the... It's interesting how that, like, one lurker cocoon somehow took up the space that normally is only blocked by a 3x3 structure. Right? So obviously Hydras and Roaches and other lurkers, I guess they're, yeah, relatively large units, but it did look like there was space there. Unfortunate game for Rogue, but at the same time, also something that I don't think he should be too upset about. It's one of those things that, like I said, you're not really going to be able to recreate that situation in another game. That is just a bit unlucky. Maybe it could have been a bit more controlled, of course, because he was frantically trying to morph in those lurkers, and I think if he would have just, well, really, you play a game of StarCraft 2 of TVZ, you play that build 1,000 times, and the odds of that happening again are very, very low. Ultimately, though, that does take us right now to Site Delta. Clem probably feels really good about his chances right now. Hopefully for him, this is not going to lull him into a false sense of security. Because I don't think that game was nearly over yet, and, well, until Rogue obviously had one lurker ruin everything. Alrighty. Hatch gas pool once again for the Gruge. It's going to be a quick command center on the low ground, second barracks, I'm assuming a marine after the Reaper, and then a factory as well momentarily. Then we see a reactor on the barracks, third command center, eventually a starport, second gas geyser, and then we're going to see some Hellion Banshee. I would imagine Clem is literally just going to do the exact same build again. Why not? He was not really tested there in the first game. Displayed his most normal strategy ever. Is he gonna get the third hatch? I don't think he will, no. So this is a delay, by the way, on... Yeah, that's a dead drone. Nice body blocking right here. That is a delay on the link speed here from Rogue. So you decide to pull the drones off of gas a little early. You want to go for the third hatchery, so he is building it right now on the right side. And then eventually you go for link speed. This is a bit of a risky build order, particularly against a double barracks opener, which is very common in Korea. It is something that Clem mixes in from time to time, but I'm pretty sure it's just to avoid this particular build. I don't think he actually loves the 3-5 Reaper opener very much. I'm pretty sure he usually... Yeah, he doesn't really play it all too often, but I think he plays it every once in a while just to make sure that Zerg players don't pull out of gas early and actually go for such a quick third base, because this is quite a greedy opener here from Rogue, and if you do play this build against a double wreck start, you are in a lot of trouble. Although, of course, the very first scouting overlord would have seen any structures over here. But the problem is, structures at the front does not mean that they don't, or I guess lack of structures here at the front, it does not mean that they don't actually exist. Because we do see variations where it's just like a double barracks inside of the main base, right? And then suddenly this build right here from Rogue would be very, very risky. Third command center indeed, once again. We've got ourselves some work being done by my neighbors, it seems. I don't know if you can hear that in the background, but it seems like they are throwing around stuff. Earlier today, they were drilling in the wall as well, so I was waiting for that to die down. Looks like the drilling is over, but at the very least, now we're throwing stuff around. If there is any noise in the background, I think it probably never gets picked up by my microphone. I did spend too much money on my audio setup, so I think everything's filtered out, but if there is any random background noise, just blame my neighbors. Anyways, it's gonna be a triple CC opener once again right here from Clem into Hellion Banshee. So, this is the Clem opener, right? This is the default go-to build order from the French Terran. Again, no real weaknesses, no real way to fall behind, and an excellent way to open up with a mid-game focused Terran push. There's barracks number 2 and 3 once again. Will we be going into some Widowmine play this time around? Could certainly be. Double Evo Chamber here, once again from Rogue. Skipping the Roach Warren, by the way, this time around. So he is playing this a little bit differently. The triple hatch start, such a quick triple hatch into double upgrades here right from the get-go, is actually quite nice against what Clem is doing. So even though this macro build right here from Clem doesn't really have any timing attacks that it can die to, it also obviously doesn't hit with a ton of units very early on. So Rogue picking up on that and deviating from his build. So he is actually countering what Clem was playing in the previous game, expecting that Clem is going to do the exact same thing once more, which I actually do quite like. I don't like these two tumors over here, though. I'm not sure what their plan was, but anyways, this is him basically saying, okay, I'm very likely to see the exact same build order here from Clem once again. So I'm going to pull out of gas early. I'm going to take the third hatch faster. I'm going to delay link speed, and I'm going to get my double upgrades going here before a lair. Obviously, this means that he's not going to have bailing speed. He's not going to have roaches at this point. A Terran mech push could be lethal. So there are a bunch of corners being cut. This is that more old school approach, by the way, that Rogue was playing about a month ago, and what players were playing a lot about a year or two ago. Lovely push right here from Rogue. Yep. No, he's playing this expertly. So I like that he's still using this strategy, but only in a very specific situation. Hellions were a little too adventurous on the other side of the map. A lot of Marines were killed just now, though, and that is really quite nice. Because this is right before any of those Terran upgrades will really kick in. So Stimpack, for example. There it is, inside of the main base. 1-1 upgrades. All of that is, well, still to finish up. So any sort of follow-up attack right now here from Clem is going to hit a little bit weaker. Maybe these Hellions can get some work done, but it looks like we have a good surround here as well. Beautifully done right here by Rogue. He does lose a bunch of drones in the process, but that is something he can easily recover from. Where's those Banshees? The Banshees not used together with the Hellions. Alrighty, so this is now a game where I would consider Rogue to be ahead. He had to cut a couple corners for it, but this is a good position for him, for certain. Not a whole lot that the Terran player can do about the fourth base. No real timing attack on the horizon here for Clem either. This is Rogue in the driver's seat. He's got that tempo advantage. Second factory coming up right now at the front. Armory coming up in the back. And I'm assuming, yeah, we're going to actually go for some good old Widowmine play. Widowmine play against Hydraling Bane, also not something I truly love, because Hydras, of course, do outrange Widowmines. And Widowmines in general are just a little bit weaker now with the new multiplayer balance patch, with their splash damage reduced and just the ability to see where they're going to fire, right? Being increased quite a bit so you can see what's happening. And this push in the previous game was a whole lot scarier. Now, still getting a bunch of creep tumors, it still killed a queen. Bailing speed, of course, not done yet. I guess he can kill another one. This is a lot of good value right here, though, from Clem. Another queen in the main base. Hello, Mr. Rogue. Yeah, we really have to send in some units. He decides to go for a counterattack. Fair enough. Slow Banelings. Yeah, he can't really focus on it. Baneling speed just finished up. Once again, SCV's in trouble. But the SCV losses have been kept to an absolute minimum, though. Yeah, considering we've had some pretty sizable run-bys, only 4 SCVs have gone down. Good work right there by Clem. Suddenly, look at the supply count. What even just happened, right? Like, just a minute ago, the supply count was dead even. But now suddenly Rogue's economy is not looking nearly as healthy anymore. He hit a bunch of Overlord blocks as well, and just in general is not finding as much of a groove. That tempo advantage that he had established, it was a small one. But now it's pretty clear that Clem is once again able to control this map very easily. That's just execution, by the way. That is not really... That's not really something you can easily replicate. It's very easy to accidentally lose. Okay. Bunch of Marines do end up going down. SCVs, okay, taking a beating. This is good right here. By the Zerg. He also did use Burrow, which I love. There is a hatchery snipe, though, on the right side of the map. Rogue cannot afford losing another one. Good splits right here against the Widowmines, too. Yep, wonderful splits. 17 SCVs and more burrowed links in all of those bases. I don't know if Clem saw it, or if he just didn't have a scan available to immediately get rid of it. There's barracks 6, 7, and 8. 4th command center coming up into a planetary fortress on the left side of the map, so this is by no means an all-in right here from Clem. He is going to be able to recover economically quite nicely. Sorry, Jimmy. There was room in the plane, but they didn't want you, man. I know, it's sad. 2-2. Nice and early here for both players. Planetary Fortress is going to finish up in just a moment. The one thing I don't really like, though, right here for Rogue is that he's still, as quick as he was with the Hive Tech in the previous game, he is still just only at Lair Tech right now. And that makes all of this a little bit more do or die. Because without a Hive, he's not going to be able to go into 3-3. Clem, in order to go into 3-3, he only needs to have the Armory. And obviously 2-2. So he's going to be able to fire up those upgrades nice and quickly here in a moment. And in a few minutes' time, he's going to have a very significant upgrade advantage. Now, he is going Ghost Academy as well, which is a bit... I mean, it's not really necessary here. Okay, this is expensive. I don't think you can blow up a Planetary Fortress, Rogue. Okay, well, I thought we were gonna use all of our Banelings for it. Not quite ideal. In the meantime, Clem is going in for a counterattack. Pushes on the right, the right as well as on the left. Is there enough right now for Rogue to overwhelm the Terran? Because that is the real question here. Obviously, he is base racing a Terran. As we've discussed many times, generally speaking, a dangerous play, because Terran structures can fly. And that is exactly what Clem has decided to do. In the meantime, he's losing a load of stuff as well at home, Rogue that is. But I think he's got barely enough. Nice Widowmine detonation there. I think he's got barely enough to push all of this away. We don't have Hydra speed? No, those Hydras were way too slow. I only just now noticed that. Forgetting Hydra speed actually does kind of suck. Terran army, though, is going back home. Rogue at this point, cleaning up all of those Widowmines. He should probably restart a hatchery if he can, because he needs to get some more mining going. A couple Hydras here trying to finish off one of those command centers. Okay. We do have drilling claws done right here, so a new Overseer is indeed a necessity. Okay. Hydras in the main base. Those Banshees from the early game, though, still putting in some work. You love to see it. 14 and 21 kills. Oh, yeah, that's actually really good. Those Banshees putting in a lot of work. Eventually, I think one of them may die. Maybe both of them will die, yeah. But that's still painful. Well done right here by Clem. But ultimately, good decision as well by Rogue. He realized that the game was starting to be a little bit desperate. And apparently this is what we decided on. A full counterattack is always an option, and it needs to be respected. Alright, now that the dust settled, we have 18 SCVs remaining right here for Clem. He does have 2 orbital commands only, which is nothing to write home about. Rogue's economy is significantly bigger as far as the worker count goes, but obviously at this point in the game, his main and his natural are running low. So despite the fact that he's got like 3 times the amount of workers here, it's not really that amazing of a Zerg economy here either. Third hatchery is restarting. We have about 1 plane right here for each of those Marines, which is a bit much. Push over on the right side of the map, okay, is gonna get cleaned up quite nicely. A couple of the Widow Mines will indeed get sniped. Now we're playing a game of StarCraft, though. You may have been thinking that we were playing a game of StarCraft already. But this is now very much so unexplored territory, where crisis management is absolute key. For example, Clem has decided that he wants to go for a full counterattack, but there is no wall off. Very easy for him to accidentally get overwhelmed when most of his army is on the other side of the map. Hatchery right now, though, reconstructed. +3 armor here starts up as well for Clem, so he believes that this game is going to go on for at least another couple of minutes, and he might just be right in that regard. But he does need to be very careful, because it's hard for Clem right here to judge exactly how many units Rogue is able to produce. Rogue, of course, still at only Lair Tech, so Hydraling Bane with 2-2 is going to be the best he's going to muster. Creep Threat looking really good as well at the bottom of the map, as well as in the middle lane. But at the top section, which is where he's remaking one of his hatcheries right now, the creep is a little lackluster. We have some Liberators coming up, by the way. I guess it makes sense, because Clem already has enough medevacs for, well, the next game in this series as well, if we end up needing it. Got a load of those. Still using them for harassment, though. Getting a snipe on the hatch would be nice, but I don't think it's gonna happen. And he needs to play this very cautiously. Okay. Since we don't have a hive, apparently the Hydras are gonna get a nice little +1 upgrade too. That does make a lot of sense. And in a way, the game has almost been reset a little bit. Yeah, liking this position right here a lot for Rogue, but he still needs to be very careful. Main problem here is that those upgrades really make such a big difference. Okay. A little bit of damage being done here. Sniping a few of the Banes. Trying to kite that Zerg army off creep. And the lack of creep over here up north really is making it difficult for Rogue to get in. Apparently he wants to go for a surround. That is a lot of Hydras. That's actually more Hydras than I realized or than I realized rather he had. So he will be able to kill those Liberators quite easily. Most of the Bio army is still underneath that Medevac. That Medevac ball. Underneath the Medevacs. There's a group of Marines. I won't do that to you. No, I won't do that to you. I'm sorry. It was a beautiful song, though. Shakira? Is that Shakira? I think it might be. Yeah, she's a big Terran fan. Alrighty. Widow mines are getting cleaned out. Oh, that Widow mine actually detonated on a Baneling. That detonated to kill the Widow mine. Just kind of funky. Very cost-efficient trades right here, though, for Clem. Yeah, you can't really tell right here from this exact mineral lossing, mineral and gas count losses, but overall, this has been a very cost-efficient game for Clem over the last few minutes. Initially, I think the resources lost was probably pretty much even. Some Liberator harassment here as well is actually quite nice. Forcing out more and more Hydras here is actually a good thing, too, for Clem. Because, well, Marines are really good against it, right? So, the more Liberators you show, the more Hydras will be built. There's no option right here for... Ooh, actually hold that thought. Okay, there's enough room in the Medevacs. Yeah, everything goes home. Except for that Widow mine, and apparently one of the Medevacs, too. What I'm saying is, though, that you need to be very cautious here, right? Because if you go too many Hydras, Terran can just overwhelm you with good old Marine Marauder. We don't really have any Marauders here, which is a bit interesting. I wouldn't mind seeing a couple of them. Clem's got a lot of gas in the bank. Honestly, the fact that Clem has those 3-3 upgrades really does make a massive difference. Rogue is just re-expanding wherever possible. Jimmy will get sniped as well for his troubles. I don't think he saw the hatchery.
Mineral field depleted.
Clem is using those command centers right now, though, to fly them all the way around. We still just have 2. The natural is being mined out, and the third, interestingly enough, apparently running out of minerals here. Well, not quite earlier than the natural, but apparently that is the command center we're replacing. Clem, by the way, not adding on any additional CCs, it looks like. So we're just sitting around on 2 command center, which does make this game a little desperate. Rogue just aiming to try and max out again. He could go for some counterattacks, though. I really think he should go for some counterattacks. But he's scared of this massive Terran army that is accumulating. Now some Marauders, by the way, are being mixed in too, which I think is a great choice. I think what Rogue is hoping for here is that he can either max out or that he can take this entire Terran army on creep. Clem tiptoeing around. He knows very well about the speed advantage that those Zerg units get on the creep, and that is not even to really talk about the vision advantage just yet. A bunch of drones following each other around. Clem maybe helping out in that regard. Yeah, I don't love that Rogue is not doing any real counterattacks, though, because these bases are incredibly exposed. Other than some Widow mines, there's... well, maybe a few reinforcements, right, that show up. But other than that, there's really not a whole lot of army here available to defend. Okay, here we go. Clem pulls the trigger once again on Stimpak. He wants to kill this base badly. He also wants to drag the entire Zerg army off this area. Oh, that choke point could have been an absolute disaster there for Rogue. Somehow he manages to survive with the majority of his Banelings. Good attempt right there by Clem. Trying to drag that entire Zerg army away from the creep. Actually, it was still technically on creep, right? Which is why it's kind of... maybe Rogue knew that the Widow mines burrowed there. Because he had vision of it, but... just having vision and also seeing it is not quite the same thing. Now we do have a little bit of a Zerg counterattack. Thing is, though, the reinforcements have been going to this section of the map for quite a while already. The rest of the Zerg army also decides to show up. This does now mean that Rogue is fighting off creep. Is there enough here? We need to see some good splitties. Oh, great moves here actually by Clem. Doesn't even need to split. He just stands his ground. He stims and he just pokes all of those banelings to death. What could have been an amazing fight for Rogue is turning into an absolute landslide victory in favor of the Terran. Ay, ay, ay. I thought Clem was gonna have to split his banelings, or against the banelings there, but he did not need to at all. He just stood his ground, and that is one of the most difficult decisions to make, because it's really easy to look at that and think, yeah, I need to split. Alright, the SCVs ultimately do run. A couple of the Lings do burrow, but this time around they were spotted. There is still Zergling, by the way, over in the natural. This base now also is going to get denied once more, but I don't think Clem really has any plans on going back in here. Now we are going to have to see some splits. Yeah, no way you're going to be able to pull that same trick against banelings on creep. Nicely done right here, though, by Clem. Yeah, doing a great job overall. Okay. Rogue is creating opportunities for himself. And while it looks like Clem may just barely be one bridge too far, the fact that he's able to push Clem to the limit just a month or so after coming back from the military is very impressive. Yeah, I don't think this is going to be a winnable game right now moving forward here for the Zerg. But he's creating opportunities, and he clearly has the speed. And honestly, game number 1 looked really promising until it didn't, right? I guess that goes for any StarCraft match. Yeah, it looked pretty good until it didn't. But in general, I think that was a very small mistake that ultimately did lose him the entire game. A very fixable mistake, let me put it like that. Okay, well, Clem is still gonna have to respect his Zerg army, though. We're still one bad engagement away from this being a Zerg victory, but yeah, these fights are just not good for the Zerg. Rogue just stands there, and he tries to roll the banelings in, but just like Rogue, Clem is happy to just press the Stimpack button and try to collapse all over his army. We did in the meantime, by the way, have a bunch of SCVs go down. So Clem once again has been reduced to just 22. He still only has 2 orbitals, by the way, so he's basically just picking out any base he likes. And he's trying his best to get some work done there. Problem is, this is still a military science fiction game, right? And at this point, we're talking 90 army supply for Terran versus 28 for Rogue. And while it is difficult to close out a game against Zerg, especially on creep, I want to be a believer, but I've got a feeling that we are watching the last moments here of Rogue. Because he just cannot contest with his army. The counterattacks are really good, though. Okay, maybe the Zerglings? To try to create a wraparound. Clem is so good against banelings. GG ultimately is cold. And it is indeed a 2-0 win right here for the French Terran, but honestly, well played right here as well by the Zerg. I hope you enjoyed watching this video. If you did, make sure you hit that like button down below, and if you really enjoyed it, make sure you hit the subscribe button. Now, if you really enjoyed it, you can join these absolute bosses and legends on your screen right now over at patreon.com/LowkoTV. Thank you in particular for directly supporting the channel. For now, though, have a great rest of your day. Don't forget to smile. And I hope to see you again very soon for another video.